if you weren't looking at your stomach in the mirror every time you walk past one and critiquing how bloated you look, how wide your hips look. And if we recognize that our bodies are a vessel to carry us through this life, not who we are, and not what creates our value. Hi divas, I hope that everyone is doing as best as they can in the current world circumstances that are high-key a freaking nightmare right now. I've already had my mental breakdowns over the recent bill, and I hope you're taking care of yourself. In today's episode, I want to help shed some light on the impossible, unrealistic beauty standards that our society and culture has normalized. Over the past couple of years, I have managed to teach myself how to decenter men, validate myself, and even heal my anxious attachment style. But the one thing I could never kick was hyper-fixating on my body and just never being happy with it. Always feeling like there was something else that I needed to change, or another spot on my body where I needed to tone up or lose weight on. I felt that once I did that, I would be allowed to be happy with my body, but that finish line kept getting moved and moved and moved. I think that you all can probably relate to if you're watching this. For me, this hyperfixation on my body looked like checking how my stomach looked every time I walked past a mirror, beating myself up over what I ate, sucking in my stomach whenever I walk past people, and fill in the blanks for the rest. So if you can relate to any of that, this video is for you. So in the first chapter of this video, we are going to unpack the trap of the unrealistic beauty standards. In the second chapter, how this leads to a hyperfixation on our body and on our appearance. Third, why we should step out of this cycle. And fourth, how to heal this part of us and build a healthy relationship with our bodies. Our society sets impossible expectations for women's bodies, along with reinforcing a skewed perception of beauty as thin, flawless, and youthful. It sells thinness as the body type to aspire to no matter what cost, in exchange for external validation, which in itself is a pile of shit painted gold. The external validation only brings us short-term, fleeting feelings of joy. True happiness and love for ourselves is only going to come from within ourselves. So why do we have these beauty standards if they don't benefit us? They benefit our systems of power. Capitalism has effectively made beauty a currency and our insecurities something to profit off of. As of 2024, the global weight loss and diet industry was worth about $224 billion. Billion with a B. B is in ball. And is continuously growing. Roughly 45% of Americans go on a diet each year. 90% of those 45 million people are women. And the real kicker is that 95% of diets fail. The industry doesn't want them to succeed because they can't profit off of women actually achieving the standard that they set. They want us to always be chasing that. When we're obsessed with fixing ourselves or changing our bodies or beating ourselves up because of them, we don't have time to sit back and recognize what is actually going on within our system. It's time to wake up to the lies about what our body should look like, what our worth is based on that, and that beautiful means skinny. In other words, our obsession with beauty and being thin is something that we're taught, not something that we're born caring about. So how do we get caught in the loop of hyperfixating on our bodies and attributing our weight to our worth, or our worth to our weight? First and foremost is social media. Social media is essentially a playground for comparison. It sells us on ideas of what we should look like and regurgitates facades of perfection. Before social media, and even still, we see predominantly thin or petite women as models, pop stars, in magazines. And although we are thankfully starting to see more diversity in this regard and representation for more body shapes and sizes, women's weight and bodies are always so quick to be judged and scrutinized, both by the media and by the public in the comment sections. One recent example of this is in March, Vogue did a photo shoot commemorating the Hairspray musical, starring Gigi Hadid and a bunch of other petite, thin women. Hairspray is a musical about plus-size pride, but not one plus-size model was included in that shoot, despite that whole musical being about plus-size visibility at its core. This is a perfect illustration of how deeply ingrained these narrow beauty templates are. The way that women are just objectified in general within our society plays a large role in contributing to a collective hyper-fixation on our bodies. We live in a world where the patriarchy tries to reduce women's worth to their bodies. For example, we've all come across the men that only show respect for or will be even kind to women that they find attractive. We're taught that our worth lies in how desirable we are, rather than how smart, kind, talented we are. This gets internalized and minimizes our feelings of worth, understandably, and disconnects us from our true value and power. We've been taught that our value is external, but that's a lie that we have to unlearn. Once again, when we're too focused on tearing ourselves down, we don't have the time or energy to recognize that we're being absolutely played, thrown into a race that is impossible to win, but the race keeps us too busy to wonder why we're in it in the first place. So when our world teaches us to view ourselves through the lens of how we look instead of through the lens of our joy, our power, and our wholeness, we stay stuck in this toxic cycle with ourselves of never being happy with how we look. But the beautiful thing is, we can just opt out of playing that game altogether. Stepping out of it is one of the most radical and free things that we can do for ourselves. Here's why. If the patriarchy and consumerism profits off of our self-hate, then being happy and confident in ourselves, shamelessly taking up space, and not falling into the beautiful equals skinny trap is an act of resistance and rebellion. And I encourage you to, if nothing else, do it out of spite of what the patriarchy and our system wants. The mental war of obsessing over our bodies is so exhausting too. So whenever we finally let go of that, it gives us so much mental freedom. And surrendering to that isn't giving up or letting ourselves go. It's reclaiming our energy so that we can put that towards meaningful changes in our lives that bring us joy and align with our authenticity. So once we recognize this, we can switch from wanting to change ourselves out of shame and shrinking ourselves to wanting to make changes in our lives from a place of self-love and alignment with who we want to be, not who society thinks we should be or tells us we should be. That successful change is always going to come from a place of self-love and not from a place of beating ourselves down or feeling guilt or shame. So what does it actually look like to stop chasing an impossible ideal and start building a real loving relationship with our bodies? One that isn't based on shame or external validation. This healing starts from the inside out. It starts by recognizing that our bodies aren't just an aesthetic. They're not just an object to be consumed, controlled, or constantly compared. They're our homes and they're our strength. They are the vessels through which we experience joy, movement, connection, and life. We have to learn to see our bodies as way more than just a project to fix. I have really struggled with that. I have gotten stuck in the loop of feeling like I constantly need to be improving or fixing something about myself. We've all internalized lifetimes of messaging that we're not enough or something about ourselves needs to be fixed. So on days when you're having a bad body image day, because those are going to happen, a good way to keep yourself accountable and reflect on those feelings is asking yourself, who profits off of me feeling this way about myself? That question always whips me into shape really quick and reminds me that I'm not the enemy here. Our bodies are the enemies. Our bodies are our friends. And we should take care of them and be nice to them. Society's unrealistic standards for beauty are not our responsibility to uphold or our burden to abide by. I think that it's natural and good to want to improve and better parts of yourself. And the point of this video isn't to shame anyone for wanting to lose weight, but to study and critique the unrealistic beauty standards in our society that fuel an unhealthy fixation or pressure to be thin. The wounds resulting from this pressure are deep cuts that are embedded into our sense of self-worth and identity. It needs to be rinsed, disinfected, stitched up, and given care each day for a while to heal. Unlearning something that is reinforced with every fiber of our entertainment, media, and perceived opportunities takes work. It's uprooting the weeds to clear space and plant flowers. Healing isn't linear, it's messy, but it's so worth it. Once you start showing up for yourself and giving yourself the compassion that you deserve, the rest of your life starts to change too. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and let me know what other types of videos or topics you would like to see me cover. Mwah. Have a great day.